Hello. I've had some questions about adding and subtracting real numbers. Okay, so when you deal with adding and subtracting real numbers, this is when negative signs come into play. Okay, most of us are generally at this point pretty comfortable adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing whole numbers, fractions, decimals, as long as they're positive. But when you throw in those negative signs, it certainly does complicate things a little bit. So what I want to do is just go over the basic sign rules for addition and subtraction, okay? And if necessary, we can do further videos where we review adding and subtracting decimals with these signs. Okay, I might do a little bit in this video, but the basic point of this video is just to make sure you understand how those negatives work, okay? So let's go to the whiteboard. Okay, so adding real numbers. Sometimes you'll see it as adding signed numbers, same thing. Now I am going to start with just integers so that you can, pretty easily see how these negatives are going to work. But basically, you have two cases. All right. The first case is adding two numbers with the same sign. All right. And so basically what you do is you pretend the sign isn't there for just a brief second, add the numbers, and then keep the common sign. So if you're adding two negative numbers, you just add the numbers and then you tack on a negative. The second case, well, let me move that up a little bit. The second case is adding two numbers with different signs. Sorry, my handwriting is always so messy. I promise in the real world on a whiteboard, it's not like this, but using my tablet or my laptop, it's always kind of a disaster. So basically, when you're adding two numbers that have different signs, you want to find the difference between the two numbers, and then you kind of ask yourself, what do I have more of at the end? Do I have more negative or do I have more positive? And that's the sign that you're going to keep on your answer. So what we really do is we subtract, and then we keep the sign on the larger number. So whichever number you had more of, if it was negative, you keep the negative sign. If you had more of the positive, you keep the positive sign. So let's look at an example of each of these just really quick. Let's say we have negative 32 plus negative 12. Well, I'm adding two numbers that have the same sign. So I've got some negative and I'm adding more negative to it. That means I'm going to have a whole lot of negative. So I take my 32 and I add my 12. Well, 32 plus 12 is 44, and it has to be negative. Now, what if I had negative 32, but I was adding positive 12? Well, now I have two numbers that have different signs, and I basically want to find the difference between the positive and the negative. So I'm actually going to subtract. So over here to the side, if you need to, you can do 32 minus 12. That's going to give me 20. But then I have to determine, okay, is this 20 going to be positive or is it going to be negative? So you ask yourself, do I have more of the negative or do I have more of the positive? Well, I have way more negative. Okay, 32 is much bigger than 12, and that's the negative number. So my final answer here would be negative 20. Okay, so let's look at a few examples just to make sure we're really good on the addition. Let's say we have negative 7 plus negative 3. Well, I'm adding two numbers that have the same sign, so I would add 7 plus 3 is 10, and they're both negative, so it's going to remain negative 10. Now, a lot of books will teach you how to do this using a number line. So let's say we have 0, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right. So we're starting at negative 7. So I would go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I need to subtract negative 3. So I'm going to go to the left. 1, 2, 3. Well, what number am I at? I'm at negative 10. Okay. We could also look at negative 7 plus 3. Well, using the rules, -7 and 3, they have different signs. So I want to find the difference between my negative and my positive. So I subtract. 7 minus 3 is 4. And it just so happens that I have more negatives. So my final answer is -4. Well, let's look at a number line. All right, so I start at -7. So I go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, -7. All right, but this time I want to add +3. So +3 would take me to the right. So I would go, starting right here, I would go over 1, 2, 3. Well, where am I at right here? Well, I'm at -6, -5, and I'm at now -4. All right, so that would be your result. All right, what if we had +7 plus -3? All right, well, using the rules, I've got two signs. Okay, so I'm adding two numbers that have different signs. I subtract, I want to find the difference between my positive and my negative. So 7 minus 3 is 4. And this time I have more positive. So my result is going to be +4. So looking at a number line again. All right, so let's say we have 0 right here. I start at +7, so I go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's +7. And this time I want to add -3. Well, -3 is going to take me to the left. So I want to go back 1, 2, 3. And my final answer would be at +4. Okay? And then finally, what if we had just plain old 7 plus 3? This is like regular addition. It's what you're used to. So 7 plus 3 is 10. They're both positive. So we keep the solution positive. All right. So let's say we have a 0 right here. We started at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. But we wanted to add +3. So we go to the right. 1, 2, 3. And that puts me at +10. Okay. So really quickly, let's practice some more. Let's say we have 15 plus -8, -15 plus 8, -15 plus -8, and then, whoops, I got that one wrong, didn't I? And then you could also do the just plain old 15 plus 8, but I think we'll skip that one for now since that's standard. All right, so 15 plus -8, we have two different signs. One's positive, one's negative. We want to find the difference between the positive and the negative, so we subtract. 15 minus 8 is 7. And then I have more positive than negative, so my final result is going to be +7. All right. The next example, we have -15 plus +8. Again, I'm adding two numbers with different signs. I want to find the difference between the positive and the negative, so I subtract. 15 minus 8, again, is 7. But if you look at this one, this time, I have more negative. So my final result is -7. All right. Third example over here, we're adding two numbers with the same sign. We have -15 plus -8. This means I want to add them. All right. So 15 plus 8 is going to be what? 23. All right. And then since they're both negative, the final result is going to be negative. So I'm adding negative to negative. That means I'm going to have even more negative. All right. So that is adding integers. You need to make sure that you fully understand how to add signed numbers, because what we're going to end up doing with subtraction of signed numbers is we're actually going to convert it to an addition problem. So let's look at subtraction. All right, so subtracting real numbers. And again, for these examples, I'm going to use integers because I want nice, easy numbers to deal with, just to make sure you understand how the signs are going to work, okay? So if I were to have A minus B, what we can do is we can actually convert this to an addition problem. You keep the first number the same, and then you add the opposite of the second number. And I found out making these videos that I say the word actually a lot. Have you guys noticed? All right, so in Word, you keep the first number, and then you add the opposite of the second number. So let's look at a really easy example, some kind of just standard subtraction. Let's look at 10 minus 6. This is just standard subtraction, stuff we can do in our head. We can all look at 10 minus 6 and we can say that the result is 4. But let's take this 10 minus 6 and convert it to addition and then use the addition rules, okay? Now, a lot of you are going to be like, this is so stupid. It would be quicker to just subtract. Yes, of course, in this example, it would be a lot quicker to subtract. But you're going to get some nasty examples, and being able to convert to addition is really going to save you, okay? So learn the process, especially on these easy ones. Really practice the process so you can double check your answer. Okay, so we keep the 10, and then instead of subtracting 6, we want to add the opposite of 6. Well, the opposite of 6 is negative 6. So you can see now with this example, we're adding two numbers that have different signs. That means we want to find the difference between the positive and the negative, so we subtract. We can see that 10 minus 6 is 4, and I had more positive, so my final result is going to be positive 4. All right, let's try another one. 32 minus 12. Well, we already know that 32 minus 12 is going to be positive 20. That's something that we can all easily do in our head or with a little quick side work. But let's go ahead and practice this process of converting subtraction to addition. The first number stays the same, and then instead of subtracting a positive 12, I'm going to add a negative 12. So just like in the previous example, I've got addition of two numbers that have different signs. I want to find the difference between the addition and the subtraction, not the addition and the subtraction. I want to find the difference between the positive and the negative, so I subtract. 32 minus 12 is 20. And I have more positive than negative, so my final result is going to be positive 20. Now, just really quick, when you have a positive number, you don't have to put the plus sign in front of it. It is assumed to be positive, all right? I put these plus signs here just to make it very clear that we're dealing with a positive sum. All right, let's practice some more. Let's say that we have 5 minus 9. Okay, first number stays the same. And then instead of subtracting positive 9, I want to add negative 9. All right. Hopefully it's very easy for you all to see that 9 is bigger than 5. And if I take away something bigger than what I'm starting with, I'm going to be in the negative. So hopefully everybody can see that this is going to be a negative number. Okay. But let's go through the motions. All right. I'm adding two numbers that have different signs. I want to find the difference between the positive and the negative. So I subtract. 9 minus 5 is 4. But in this case, I have more negative. So my final answer is going to be negative 4. So let's look at another one. Let me get some water really quick. So in this case, we have negative 9 minus, or negative 5 minus 9. All right, let's convert it to addition. First number stays exactly the same. So I'm just going to rewrite the negative 5. But now, instead of subtracting positive 9, I want to add negative 9. And so what happens now is I'm adding two numbers that have the same sign. So I'm going to add 5 plus 9 is 14. They were both positive, so I get negative 14. And hopefully it makes sense that if you have a negative and you take away more, you're going to have a bigger negative, okay? And that is exactly what happens right here. All right. What if I had 5 minus negative 9? Okay, same exact rules apply. We keep the first number, so I just rewrite the positive 5. But now, instead of subtracting negative 9, I want to add the opposite of negative 9. And the opposite of negative 9 is a positive 9. So now I've just got positive 5 plus 9. This is standard addition, okay? Or you can think of it as adding two numbers that have the same sign. So we add 5 plus 9 is 14, and it's going to be positive. All right, one more. Let's say we had negative 5 minus negative 9. Same rules as with the other examples. The first number stays exactly the same, so I'm going to rewrite the negative 5. But instead of subtracting negative 9, I'm going to do the opposite of all of that. Whoops, what did I just do? There we go. So instead of doing the minus negative 9, I'm going to do the opposite of that. The opposite of subtraction is addition, and the opposite of negative 9 is positive 9. So now I'm adding two numbers that have different signs. We want to find the difference between the negative and the positive. So I subtract. 9 minus 5 is 4. And in this case, I have more positive, so my final answer is positive 4. All right, not too bad. Now, you can also add and subtract a series of numbers, so it won't just be two numbers necessarily. You could add or subtract 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 numbers if you wanted to. So let's look at an example. So let's say I have negative 22 plus 13 minus 4 minus negative 12 plus negative 17, okay? So something like this has the potential to boggle the mind of a math student, but it's really not a big deal. You take it nice and slow, step by step, never try to rush, and show your work, okay? Even though you're at home and you're doing all of your work on a computer, still use scrap paper or like a little whiteboard to show your steps, okay? Being neat and organized is the key to being successful at math. So a problem like this can be a little overwhelming at first. So what we're going to do is we already know that we can subtract two numbers by converting it to an addition. So I'm going to go through this problem, and anywhere I see subtraction, I'm going to convert it to addition. Anything that's addition is just going to stay. So the first number, negative 22, it just stays. And then we have plus 13, so that stays. But then I have minus 4. So instead of subtracting a positive 4, I want to add a negative 4. And then instead of subtracting a negative 12, I want to add the opposite of negative 12, which is positive 12. And then I have plus negative 17, it stays. Now, the question is, what do I do at this point with all these numbers? There are two methods. The first method is to take all of the negative numbers, negative 22, negative 4, negative 17, add those, and then to take the positive numbers, positive 13, positive 12, and add those, and then do the final sum of your positive and your negative. That works for many people. That's one method. The other method is just to go left to right. Add two numbers, get the result, add the next number, get the result, add the next number, get the result. It is inevitably up to you what you do. For me, in this one, I'm going to add the negatives. So I had 22, I had 4, and I had 17. I want to figure out the sum of all of my negative numbers. So 7 plus 4 is 11, plus 2 is 13. So I keep a 3, I carry a 1. And then 1 plus 2 plus 1 is 4. So at this point, I know I have negative 43. Now I want to go through and add my positives. That just got awkward, so I'll keep it like this. All right, so the positives, let's see, I had what, 13 and 12. So I get 13 plus 12 is 25. So I have negative 43 plus positive 25. And you can see here that I'm adding two numbers with a different sign, and that's the perk to this method. You add up all the negatives, you get a negative value. You add up all the positives, you get a positive value, and then you do this one last addition or subtraction. So I have two different signs. I want to find the difference between my positive and my negative, so I would subtract. I'm going to take 43 and subtract 25. Well, I cannot take 5 from 3, so I borrow from the 4. 4 becomes a 3. 3 becomes a 13. And now I can take the 5 from 13, I would get 8, and then 3 minus 2 is 1. So I have a sum of 18, but we have to determine still, is it positive or is it negative? So we go back, and right here, I have 43 that's negative, 25 is positive. That tells me I have more negative. So my final result is negative 18. All right, hopefully that helps a little with adding and subtracting where you have signs. Okay, you just have to kind of let me know. So as you start working through your tiers, if you get to a concept that you're struggling with, let me know. You can join Zoom, which I absolutely encourage, because a lot of you aren't joining Zoom at all, and so you're not communicating with me at all, and that's not good. So join Zoom, but if you join Zoom, you've really got to have questions, like very specific questions, ready to go, okay? Because I have no idea who's going to be joining Zoom on any given day, so I don't have time to go track down the specific questions that you're struggling with in EdReady. I don't really have time to track down questions in a book. So you need to have questions written out that you want to go over. If you need, something more in depth, let me know and we can meet up one-on-one on Zoom, or you can let me know and I can make you a video. Okay. But you got to let me know. I can't help you if you're not communicating with me. All right. Take care.